He is the KCCA FC PRO, and also Mr. Patrick Kanyamozi, the USPA president. USPA, if you don't know, is the Uganda Sports Press Association, the new president in town. And so that is the conversation today. But of course, we saw the CAF Awards coming to the fore. We are so proud of our, footballers as well. And the president is also totally proud. And yesterday we saw his tweets. So as you can see here on the screen, the president tweeted, and of course we had quite a lot of reactions, and let's go into it. He says, I congratulate my son at Masinde Onyango for being named in Africa's best football team at the CAF Awards 18, that's 2018, in Dakar, Senegal. There is no doubt his goalkeeping skills have contributed immensely to Uganda's recent footballing success, and as a country we are proud of him. Indeed, we are totally proud of him. And so with this tweet, of course, there's a lot of reactions that came through. 131 people got to comment on that particular tweet. We had 479 retweets on the same, and also 2.4 thousand reactions. Of course, that's in terms of likes. And so there's a lot of pressure on KCCA, and so I'll jump over to Rita Kanya, who is with Mr. Magero, the PRO of KCCA FC. Remember, the hashtag is morning at NTV. Let's see how much girls know about football. So.
Oh, we do know a lot, and actually Mala is going to join me here, because before we can get into the conversation this morning, we're definitely going to have a little bit of the boys versus the girls. I mean, we have to start from somewhere, right? Well, Moses, you're most welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you very much.
And we're also going to be joined by Patrick. Now, Mala, please do join me, as we, first of all, as Ugandans, we're so proud of Onyango. Surely we can all agree.
Very, very much.
Well deserved. After having a conversation with Moses, he says this was a long time coming, and in the spirit of, thank you so much for joining us, Mala.
Thank you.
I don't know if I should, how do I do this? Well, I can't do this.
Double something.
So, am I the goalkeeper here?
We'll see. No, actually, Mr. Patrick Kanyamozi is coming through, so it's going to be a girls, and then men to men.
Oh, wow. I thought the boys was the girls, something like that.
No, girl power. We will defeat them this time.
Cool.
So as we get into that, one of the things we're going to definitely be discussing is the fact that Ugandan football has definitely finally gone onto the international scene, not only with Onyango, but also the fact that, first of all, KCCA is on the road to the Confederation as well. Yeah. We're almost there, right?
Yeah, we're almost there. Just 180 minutes away.
Yes,
yeah.
in regards to the weekend coming. I mean, he's so exact about the minutes, but also the fact that we also have Vipers who have also gone ahead to get to somewhere. Although they have been kicked out of the CAF, we do know that, although they have been kicked out, they have been brought into the Confederation. Yes, they got somewhere, but they just didn't get to where we expected them to get. Unfortunately, the African League. No,
the CAF, yes, Confederation of African Football Champions League. Yes. Then what we are in right now is Confederation of African Confederations Cup. Yeah.
You have had it.
But you know, Rita, now that we have the PRO here, let's just put him on the spot. KCCA is on a roll. You guys are beating guys squarely and fairly. What's the trick? Of course, we're seeing Onduparaka also coming for you guys, but unfortunately there's some turbulence there. Exactly. So what's the trick for KCCA? Is it the management, now that you're part of management? What exactly is making you guys win?
Well, all stakeholders come into play when it comes to the success of a team. Different kind of things, from the board to the technical team, to the management, to the players, to the fans, and everyone. People will only see the 90 minutes that are on the field of play, but a lot happens in the back end before a game of football happens. So I would say it's a collective effort. Whatever you see, the 9-8 goals that you'll see at the end of the game, a result of whatever's been happening from the start, from the board's preparations, the management that has really been set up, the structures, the systems, and they've been empowered. The technical team, top class. I don't think in East Africa there is a team that has a technical team as big as ours, and that has really been empowered, just like our technical team. And then the players, believing in the manager's philosophy, trying to do what the technical team believes in, and then executing putting it on the field of play. So it's a collective effort.
When Moses talks about it being a collective effort, definitely we cannot forget the media, right?
Yeah.
We're somewhere
Wow,
now.
true. Big time. Very
huge
big, big stakeholders.
And, yes, and talking about the big stakeholders, we do have the president of the Uganda Sports Press Association, the one and only Patrick Kanyomozi, joining us as well before the girls can take on the boys. So allow me to welcome the one and only Mr. Patrick Kanyomozi. You're most welcome, yes. Mr. Patrick.
Drum rolls.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Are you ready to take us on?
I'm very ready.
Okay, positions set.
Do you want to be on the same side?
We're here. No.
You know what, Rita? Because I know we're so good at this. Yeah. So let them start.
The boys start.
Let them start.
What exactly are we doing?
So you guys, okay, we're a team of, it's two teams, so girls and the men as well. So I'm going to start off, maybe let me be the goalkeeper as the boys start. So you're going to give us a shot, he'll give us a shot and let's see. And then also Rita will take her place and then we see.
We're
and
then for the next Onyango.
Exactly.
Okay,
so here's the female Onyangos for this morning.
So let's see.
We're going to be on this end. Would you like to come here?
Okay.
Mala, we need to be able to see you do your thing.
Let's see.
Are we going to have two goalkeepers?
No, just one.
Just here, just one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going to give us a shot, he gives us his, and then we exchange, we get the next goalkeeper who is Rita, and then like that.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, go fast.
Okay.
Please be gentle.
Be gentle. So that's the goal at the back?
Yeah, at the back. Let's see.
Really be gentle.
Like really?
I stopped it. It's right here. It's right
So
here.
ready, go.
Okay, so
Rita, I'm sorry.
You just have to stand. You have to make sure that Mala can be able to get this one.
Okay.
So
we currently lead 1-0.
Yes.
Yeah. 1-0.
no, Mala. Make me proud.
Let's see.
I hope today and knock the ball up.
I got it right. So Rita, take the stage.
Okay.
1-1.
So it's just one, yeah.
1-0.
Oh dear.
One straight, one missed.
It all starts
again.
now. But Moses is a bit tricky.
No.
I can do this. I can do this.
How?
I told you it was Moses.
It's Moses, right?
You didn't even move.
She didn't even make a step after me. Okay.
You didn't even get it.
That was a standard system.
Okay. Do it again.
Take another shot.
Let me just stand away because I'm tempted. Yay! So it's our turn now.
Okay, cool. Okay, you
As
can go.
it seems the ladies
What's
are
happening,
doing
Mr.
this.
Kanyomozi? It seems like you're not such a good
No, I have to balance the power.
Okay, so let's see.
Very close, okay.
You see, I even didn't wear my shoes because I know.
You saved it.
The
Okay.
issue might be how you kick the ball as well.
Hey, no, I think you take another shot from her.
So now you see how hard it is how hard it is for the guys.
Yeah, for the
playing
Onyango.
Onyango did an amazing job.
Rita.
This is how they do it most of the time.
You know?
They do this, but anyway.
Problem is you might use all the energy in warming up.
That is
I don't think you're winning this. What exactly are you celebrating?
kick the ball.
Let's see.
Okay. First time. Okay.
How are we losing this?
Okay.
I got you. I'm doing this. Before you can get. You see, this is how the local talent.
But then what's on offer for the winning team?
By the way, before you take the last shot.
A very good conversation. A very good conversation.
Cool. So she's got
A conversation now. The boys asked a conversation, which we're
But
going
you
to be
did
getting into. Yes, well done. So now on to the conversation this morning. The fact that we do have local talent. I think Mala and I actually qualify for the ladies' group somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying no to this?
No.
Okay, so right now, as
You know, by the way, we're in the same boat with him because he's called Nan.
yes, so he
But the
joins
boys,
us.
it's a collective effort, just like we said.
No, I do know you can be a part of this conversation as we
Right.
talk about Ugandan football on the international scene by simply making sure that you go to our social media platforms. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, and the hashtag is morning at NTV. But also you can be able to join in by simply calling in. Now the call line is going to be on your screen. Be sure to make sure you make that call and be a part of the conversation because your views need to be heard. Now we're going to start it off with the one and only conversation, the biggest thing that we've talked about. We've seen Uganda Cranes this this time round, 2019 is a big year for us once again at AFCON, and also the fact that we have Vipers going to the international scene as of this weekend. We also have KCCA Confederation. That is something huge, and we hope that the DRC is not ready for us. It is not ready, but it all goes back to the fact that we've finally gotten to the international scene. Onyango, we're celebrating him. Where does this leave our football scene in Uganda? Are we going up? Are we getting there to the international scene? Who would like to start this one?
Yeah.
Well, if I may go first, I think all indications are that Ugandan football is on the rise. Okay. First of all, if you are to pick out a few indicators, one, the fact that Uganda is going to be playing at the Africa Cup of Nations for a second successive time. That was something that was unheard of for, for 38, close to 39 years. So that's one indicator. And then the fact that you have the likes of KCCAFC doing well on the club competitions on the continent. That's also another indicator that there's something that is being done right for Ugandan football. Well, for Vipers, we wait to see how they are going to perform against Sfaxien from Tunisia, because they are almost in the similar boat like SCCFC found themselves in. They didn't do well in the CAF Champions League, then dropped down to the CAF Confederations Cup. But that's also still a good thing that they are still in the competition. And then, of course, there are also strides that are being made in Ugandan in women football, although it's not yet where it is supposed to be, but there are also strides that are being made towards that. Then the underage competitions, which is a key component of football development. If you have the under-20 team doing well decently, then you have an under-17 team, then definitely there are indications that probably Ugandan football could be on the right track. But also, more importantly, government taking interest in sport, because it's a very expensive industry.
It is.
And honestly, the federation, it's very hard to do it by themselves. And government picking interest. Of course, government picking interest, it could also have they could also have their own motives, maybe the political capital and everything. But at the end of the day, the greatest beneficiaries are the footballers or the football stakeholders.
Let me ask you a question. Of course, when it comes to, like you said, football is an expensive venture, and when we look at it, many clubs actually don't survive because of that aspect, the financial aspect. So, what would you say in terms of the government picking interest? The president tweeting about it, that was a great move right there, even in terms of the gesture. So in terms of the government coming in, maybe picking interest in supporting these football teams in Uganda, as well as football clubs as well, just to grow Ugandan football, where would you ideally say they need to draw the line so that it doesn't become a political game at the end of the day as well?
Well, for any government intervention, it's very hard to separate it from politics, the motive. But the clubs have not been supported because there is no mechanism for the government to directly support the clubs, and most of the clubs have to survive on their own. But it's also a good thing that the Ugandan clubs are realizing how they should be run, and I think you have to give credit to KCCAFC because they have set the trend. Now they are kind of a model club for Ugandan football right now.
We just because as an example, a number.
Yeah, because they are doing things at least how they are supposed to be done by any football club. How to look for sponsorships, partners to support you, how to run the football club professionally. So for the clubs, they are still struggling. But as the football environment improves, then that means that more money is going to come into the game. And the league has a sponsor, a television sponsor. Now, most sponsors obviously have tried to come into it. Of course, there are a big chunk of clubs that still struggle with the finances because it's very expensive to sustain a football club, and you have to give all the credit to the guys that pump money into the football clubs. But government intervention has been mainly on the national team. Previously, it was not well structured. Like FIFA would go to the president and he says, "Oh, give them 5 billion or give them 3 billion." But now that it's been incorporated into the budget, that's something really impressive on the side of the government. But of course, a lot more still needs to be done, especially in supporting grassroots football development.
Okay, as we speak about supporting grassroots football development, we definitely do know that yes, the football scene is growing in the country, but it starts with the talent itself. himself, one of these players here and there. And I'm going to start this off with Moses. The fact that we do have schools, there are a number of schools that are making sure they have this. I mean, Vipers came from a school, but also we have had academies before. We've had academies within Uganda, within Kampala, for those who do not know. But you remember KKL, it was a start, but somehow it died. Yes, and now we're seeing a number of schools. We also had Jinja Chiwinya SS, that was also a part of this. And what is happening right now is that should we be focusing and asking the government that you have spoken about in regards to the Ministry of Education and Sports to perhaps come through and maybe support the schools that are helping with this, or even make sure it's in a number of schools so that we can be able to pick the talent that doesn't get to Kampala, but it could be in Rukunjiri, it could be in Gulu, it could be in Kisoro. Do you think the government should be a part of it, and how can they be a part of it?
Yeah, I think the government should be a part of it. How? Because when I give an example of KCCA Football Club, we have a memorandum of understanding with 2 schools for now, that is Masaka SS and Chibuli SS. Now these schools, the kind of partnership we have with them is we are able to take on some of their good students, recruit them in our junior team or the academy, and then how we give back to the school is we're able to pay tuition or school fees for some of these students that are part of the team. Now, if the government is ready to intervene and try to help in some of these schools are even government schools, and they do get some support from the government. But I mean, I don't think that support is really enough. It's something, but I mean, I think it needs to get up there. Now, for the schools that we have a partnership with, some of this, if we're not really paying that tuition for that student, probably that money should be doing something for the club. But because we have to go another boundary and then make sure we pay for that student, that means that the money that would have done something at the club now is taken into something else. But at least we have the partnership with the schools, we have the School of Excellence kind of understanding with some of the schools, and I think it's going to take us places.
Let me ask you a question before we move to Mr. Patrick Kanyamozi. Just take us through a footballer's day who is under KCCA FC. What does it take to nurture or to grow such talent and to be winners throughout and sustain that victory level?
Wow. Let me just give you an ordinary day at KCCA Football Club. Monday, 8 p.m. The last player is getting onto the stadium. The last player. When I say 8 p.m. Sorry, 8 a.m. 8 a.m. The last player is getting onto the stadium, meaning 7:59 should be the last. I mean, that's when the last guy is getting into the stadium. Then they have breakfast as a team.
Are there consequences when you don't keep time?
Yeah, very big time. Big time.
For example, I know what we have about timekeeping.
You don't want to get that. I mean, that kind of fine and something, because it could inflict on your salary or something else.
Salary.
Or it could get.
Then that's why guys are
the very. So
money.
it's so important. Timekeeping. If you really want to go professional, we have had a chance of getting some of our players that have played with us. Joseph Ochaya. When they get back, they tell us if you're going to make it on the professional level, you need to keep time. You need to be a timekeeper. So 8 a.m. last player is getting in. They have breakfast as a team. At around 8:45, 8:30, they're done. Then they go into class. So they have class every day.
They study.
Now, for example, Monday they could bring someone to teach about doping. The disadvantages of doping. Why you should not maybe involve yourself in drugs and everything. Or they could bring someone to give an education about a concussion. If you're on the pitch and if you just see a player drop, what do? You're not a doctor, but that first aid.
Yes.
Different things, just like that. Then after that, the class, they go for training from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
This is physical training on the field?
Yes. Normal, it could be ball work and everything. Yeah, but 2 hours. Then after 12 p.m. they do rest. At 1 they're having lunch. Lunch is strictly 1 hour, and when you say 1, it's 1. Now the lunch, whatever is on the menu has been dictated by the team nutritionist under the medical department. Now the person is the one to say that today the team will eat this and this and this, and that kind of menu has to be followed. The moment 1 or 2 things are not there, you've gone away from whatever is supposed to be said.
Right.
And there are some repercussions.
Right.
So there is a certain menu that has to be followed. Then after the food, the boys rest until 4. because of the training they had under the sun in the morning. Then they have another training from 4 to 6. So it's a double training session most of the time, apart from when we have a game day, like we shall have, let me say if we have a game on Friday, so on Thursday they only do one session. That's in the afternoon, so in the evening they do more of the resting to have them recover from the past trainings they have had. So after 4 to 6, that's the last training session. Then they have evening tea. It's a team thing. You just don't say that I'm not going to have the evening. It's a team thing. So all of you are going to have an evening tea. At least just go and sit at the table if you're not going to have it. Then after the evening tea, you're all free to go. So the next thing happens the next day.
Wow, so it's marathon from Monday to Monday.
Why the club chose that kind of lane? Because we believe we want to get to the top. And if you want to get to the top, you cannot have players strolling at 10 a.m.
You can't have mediocrity when you're trying
to get to Yes, and then if you have a player strolling at 10 a.m., they've missed a session. They've missed, probably the doctor was having a session about the heart that day, how maybe to develop your heart or something, and so you've missed that session. And then you're not going to have that kind of education again. So the club has rules, and the rules we do follow.
So you know, Richard has explained it, and I'm like, is this Ugandan team? You know, the description is like they have, clear-cut structures, and the discipline level is up there. And also, for that to happen, it means that the financing bit is not lacking. So you're doing well.
Yeah, that's why I said that they are like the model club right now in Ugandan football.
So if they were listening in, the rest of the clubs watching, if you're listening, you need to.
But that's now KCC AFC. The rest of the clubs cannot do that. The only club that can try to get there is Vipers.
So if we talk about Vipers in regards to, if we say perhaps taking it away from the likes of academies, which we no longer really have in Uganda, should we invest more in schools that have that model setup, that have something close to what KCCA has and what Vipers has? Is that what Uganda needs to nurture more Onyangos? Because we need more Onyangos.
Yeah, definitely. Because most of the talent that we have in Uganda, I think I would be right to say it's been nurtured accidentally.
Yes.
Because for most of the guys, there's not been a deliberate effort to identify and nurture talent. But maybe a bit about the Ministry of Education. Personally, I think that the Ministry of Education needs to do more, especially in structures and directives. Because right now, we have many schools that do not have any sports facility. You get to a school and it's just a block. That's it. They have a block and the parking lot. Kids do not get any chance to play any game. So if maybe there was a directive and say, for the basics of a school, you should have maybe a basketball court, maybe some of the basics. Each school might not have a football pitch, but maybe say you must have access to a football pitch, maybe within a radius of 200 meters, where kids can go and share that pitch. There you can see there is a deliberate effort to promote sport. But also when you look at the syllabus, because the time some of us, the older guys, we went to school, we had time to play. But now a kid gets in class at 7 a.m. They are going to leave almost at 7 p.m. They are tired. They don't get any chance to play any sport. So you find that footballers or sportsmen have to make a choice to go with either the football or the academics. There are very few schools that allow the kids to balance it. St. Mary's Chitende, maybe Chibuli SS, and the others. But if there is a general directive maybe to all the schools to have that deliberate effort to promote sport, I think it will go a long way. Because Uganda has failed with the academies. There have been many that have come up, and all of a sudden they've gone down. So it has to be the schools to bring this up, and then maybe when they get to the level where, for example, there's the FUFA Under-19 League, but what happens below that? There's the Coca-Cola Schools Tournament, but what happens before that, and things like that.
So when you speak of that, I think all I'm listening to, not KCCA FC, but KCCA as an institute within Kampala. If you do know the fact that if you're building something, you have to make sure that you actually have a parking space for a number of cars if it's a commercial building. So that's one of the very important things. But moving on from that, as Patrick is speaking, and I want Moses to be a part of this conversation, is that the media does play a huge role. And given that we have the president of the Uganda Sports Press Association, we need to know, it's 2019, it's a new year. What should we expect in one way or another that perhaps you're going to contribute to the grooming of the Nyangos of this generation?
Well, the media plays a very important role, not only in sport, but everything, basically in the general lives of people. But if I may talk about the Uganda Sports Press Association, first of all, we are an association, we're an umbrella of sports journalists in Uganda. We were formed in 1970, so in 2 years we'll be marking 50 years. But straight to the role of the media, of course you can't take away the media from the growth of Ugandan football, because the media has been very keen to promote Ugandan sport and Ugandan football at that. You will open a newspaper and you will see pages of local sport. Of course, there was a time when there were complaints that probably, especially the radio guys, were giving more time to foreign sport.
Right.
But that has changed. Yes. You listen to a radio show and half of it, or actually 3/4 of it, is dedicated to local sport. And that plays a key role. People get more interested in Ugandan sport. Of course, there's still a challenge of having people in the stands, especially for the league games. Not all clubs can have maybe 1,000 people at their league games. That is still a challenge, but that actually goes beyond what the media's role is, or what the media has done in promoting Ugandan sport. But 2019, what we do is basically to give a platform for the people, for the sportsmen, to be seen, to be read about, to people to hear about them. That's the only role that we can play as the media. But as USPA, we also have awards. Our awards are the most sought after awards on the Ugandan local scene. Because I mean, a year starts and sportsmen want to win the USPA award. A footballer wants to be the USPA football of the year, USPA netball of the year, USPA basketball of the year. So that in a way indirectly promotes competition, and in the process promotes growth of talent in the country.
Let me ask you, Moses, I beg your pardon. When it comes to attracting sponsors, because it all boils down to the coin, if a football team is to survive, it's about the finances. So you're the PRO, you're the one who is in the team that approaches clients. What do clients look out for? Because I know we have viewers who are in these football teams that are really struggling with the finances. So what are the sponsors looking out for in teams so they can go out and sponsor them? What's the package they're looking for?
Quite a number of things, but I will just mention a few of those. Visibility, number one, and the mileage. When someone comes and injects money into something, they want to see, am I getting the visibility that I need? Am I getting the mileage that I need? When you look at KCCFC, we are able to offer that and to our sponsors, because number one, we have the numbers. Look at all our pages. If you look at our social media pages, even our funds, and also someone wants to partner with someone who's not going to be, I mean, out there with bad PR. You know, there was a game and then fans threw stones, but you know, at the end of it all, the fund is putting on a certain sponsor's brand just at the front. So they don't want to really partner with such kind of people. So for us to be able to control that, we have been able to sensitize our funds. Our funds do have something that guides them, a constitution. And they know that this is a guiding document on how they're supposed to behave.
That's for the funds? For the funds. A constitution?
They have a constitution for the funds. And everyone knows that if I did this, these are the repercussions. They have a fully fledged funds club, a main funds club that governs or guides all the other branches, KWMP, Machindi, and other divisions within. So just as I said, the sponsor will want to look at the mileage they're going to get, the visibility, and no one wants to really partner with a small brand. So you really need to have stood the test of time. Wait.
You said no one wants to partner with a small brand.
Most of the people will want to be with the big brands. Why? Because now look at KCFC. We are playing on the continent. Everyone will be like, these guys are going to play the preliminary games, because at this round we're able to play these games with our sponsors on the shirts. When we get into the group stages, because of the CAF, the rates, the marketing rates that are bought by a company, a French company called Lagardère Sports, we're not able to do this. But now in the preliminary rounds, just imagine the game on Sunday against AS Otoho is on Super Sport or any other, you know, and then the players or anyone, and then the sponsors, the different sponsors are able to be seen. You're getting that mileage, and everyone is able to see whatever you're trying to, you know, get out there.
But for the small clubs, let's just not, you know, put them off. For the small clubs, what you're saying is that they need to, at least in their own way, create structures, try to be visible as well on social media, and amass as much influence as they can.
Not only social media, but in everything I think they try to do. Get yourself out there, show the sponsor why they should exactly sponsor you. It's not about just getting sponsors, otherwise it would just be maybe I walk into NTV and I'm like, I need you to sponsor KCC. But no, someone want to sponsor or be part with someone who is really going to help them push their brand out there.
Okay, so it's business at the end of the day.
Yes. Now, speaking of, as we continue the business bit of it, now the phone lines are on the screen. Please do know that you can call in. We'd love to have you be a part of the conversation. Simply call in, ask whatever question it might be. Could even just be a vote of thanks to KCCA FC. It's allowed. It is okay. And shortly we'll be going into the social media comments that we actually have on Twitter. Continue to be a part of the conversation. Facebook as well. The hashtag is morning at NTV. And as you go ahead with that, as it stands right now, Mala, we do have a number of games that actually happen in Uganda. Before we get hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Who are we speaking to?
I'm speaking to Andy.
To who?
To Andy.
Andy. Yes. What is your comment?
My comment is that is one of the best shows NTV has had.
Wow! Thank you.
You know why?
Why?
You know why?
Please tell us why.
That show must be taken to a different level. You are not going to remain on TV only. I remember when someone was campaigning, just to take analysis. If we have only 5 international footballers who are earning £250,000 a week, how much revenue is that?
Right.
What is the value chain that one footballer is able to employ?
Yes.
Is able to employ over 200 or 300 people. I've been in Cameroon. Eto has a whole company of like MTN, and all the youth are employed there, actually more. So what I am suggesting, that show must be taken to schools, like children, they have an academy. When are you planning to go and talk to the coaches and the children in Hillside so that they get motivated? When are you going to talk to the children at Edgar? So don't remain on TV only. Make sure you go lower so that these children see and know that yes, we have talent and we are able to do it. I am talking basing on my personal experience. By the time I was in S4 up to S6, I didn't pay school fees. So the school was paying my school fees. I was a footballer.
Really?
I was an athlete.
Okay.
And even I was earning allowance. So you can imagine how much money my parents saved. So it is one show that is the best show in Uganda, and please take it to a different level.
Thank
you so much.
I'm with you.
Okay, what do we have to say
much
about the fact that, first of all, KCCA FC, Moses, you can say something, as well as Patrick, where does it stand in regards to taking it to the grassroots? The fact that this can actually earn you money and try to encourage parents perhaps to have their kids more involved, and also to make sure that as schools themselves, that they should start to identify the talent.
Maybe to start with a kind of reaction to what the caller said, but also in relation to your question. Uganda, I think we are waking up late to the fact that sport, and especially football, is no longer a recreational activity. It's a big time industry. And clubs and everyone involved in football needs to start looking at it as a business, because it's no longer recreational. Clubs need to take on that business approach, look at their clubs as brands, like he was saying, brand themselves, add value to their clubs, make it easy for a sponsor to want to associate with those brands. For everyone, they need to start looking in that direction. Like he was saying, the footballers add so much to a country's economy. In countries like Nigeria, the West African countries, but also if you're going to look at it at an individual level, if you have a big time a footballer who is earning a lot, there are many people's lives that are going to change because of that footballer. Just imagine if we were exporting maybe a quarter of the maids that we're exporting to the Middle East. If we were taking footballers outside Uganda, where would we be? So everyone, right from government, all the stakeholders need to focus their minds at sport as an industry that earns a lot of money,
and that will actually catapult our economy. Rita, we do have a caller on the line. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Sorry?
What's your name and where are you calling us from?
Yeah.
Good morning. Kindly speak up. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Kindly speak up. Okay, all right. Unfortunately, we lost you. So you can actually call in and give in your comments, your questions. We have the big people here in the studio that get to answer your questions. So the line is on the screen as displayed. Rita, you had something.
Still going on with the fact that he has mentioned the fact that we have a lot of talent that we could actually be able to export out, even from what Ande said, Ande the caller. This is when we ask KCCA FC, have we had any exports from KCCA FC going on to do other things?
Big time.
A lot of money. Say how many? Because if KCCA can say big time, now imagine we have Vipers. We should be able to send a few. I mean, we have Onyango. We have seen where he has gone. If we had about just like 5 or even 6 or maybe 10 clubs doing all that KCCA is doing, where do you think we'd go as the country?
Very would I think be up there with the coordinates best. Why? Because look at the kind of revenue you get when you sell off a player. My work is not to come here and tell you how much a player was sold, but the club really makes so much money.
No, you can
but I think roughly they must be. I think they must have made I think more than 5 billion. I think in the
players
from the players that they've sold so far
in the past 1-2 years. We've been able to sell some good players. Let me say Shaban Muhammad went to Morocco. He's now playing in Morocco. Derek Nsivambi, these are national team players.
Right.
He's playing in Egypt, a club called Smoha. We're able to sell, Joseph Ochaya, he went to a Zambian club, now he's playing in TP Mazembe in Democratic Republic of Congo. We had Benjamin Ochan, different players have come and left the club. And it's not our thing that we always want to sell, but because number one, selling helps you get the revenue back. And then the other thing is, in Uganda, we're not yet to that level that you have to stop a player from moving when a big deal comes. Why? Because let me say you're giving a player 1-2 million. In Uganda, it's not hard of, but I mean, in Ugandan standards, you up there, everyone's like, oh wow, that player gets 1 million, 2 million. But out there, a player gets 10 million a week.
Yes.
A week. So at the end of the month,
that's 40 million.
That's on the continent. I'm not talking of Europe because
Europe we made
so at the end of the month, someone has minus tax and everything. Someone has pocket money of like 30 million. So someone just hearing that I'm going to be getting 30 million a month, and you're stopping that move, the player will run mad.
And you know, that brings me to the other question, and just be as honest as possible. And I'll also throw the same question to you, so I just need honesty, because it's a question on the money. How much is the least, known or least popular player in KCCA paid?
I wish you the best of getting an answer.
You know what? The reason as to why I'm asking that is because we need to change the perception and what our parents tell the children, because they will tell you, you love football. What will you eat tomorrow? Will it really pay you? So we need to have these conversations and tell parents, I'm sure they're watching, that actually football pays and can sustain you on a day-to-day basis. So how much?
Let me just give an answer to that. My role does not allow me to come here and talk about player salaries. But this is what I'm going to give you. At KCCFC, a player will get salary, good salary at the end of the month. When I say good salary, I have been able to make friends in the Ugandan Premier League. And at least I know how most of the players really earn. At KCCFC, I think we are the highest paying club.
What's the range? Just give us a range.
Very good money.
Tell us just a range.
No, very good money. Okay, now let me finish this.
Yes.
Very good money. Then, at the end of it all, whenever the players win a game, they get their winning bonuses on time. I mean, after the final whistle, I think the next 30 minutes, every player has their winning bonuses for that game. Now that's the league, plus also the Uganda Cup. Now the CAF is something special because you're earning in dollars. Whenever they win a game, we just won 2 games. Mutibwa Sugar home, then we went away, we beat them in Tanzania. But they're the only club that won a home and away game on the continent, at least on that first round. Every club at least won or drew, so we won both legs. So that money is wired to their account on sport, because there's someone who stayed in Uganda, probably who does the finances or something. So immediately after the final whistle, they're able to get that. I mean, if it's not on email or a message just pops up.
But without the bonuses, without all these other goodies that come along, is it any figure close to maybe $1 million or over $1 million?
Or even a bit above.
Above that.
Some of the players. The players really earn so well, at least in Uganda. And why? Because you want to keep the players with you, because someone is going to come and give them a better offer.
Right.
Because you're trying to limit them from getting rushed out there and like, no, I need to go or something. But then you're trying to give them until around 3 years when they can give you something and let them go.
Okay, as we speak of all of that, in regards to, first of all, we've talked about the sponsors, we've talked about the government, we've talked about the earning, which, by the way, does come down to all that we've talked about. But
can I say something about the earning? Something small. I don't see any wrong in disclosing what a player is.
But he's trying.
No, he's not trying. But at least you have to give them credit because they pay their players. But when we center this discussion around KCCA-FC, we are going to lose direction because the picture will look rosy for Ugandan football. Yet, apart from KCCA-FC and Vipers and maybe URA-AFC, the rest of the clubs cannot afford to pay the players. You hear stories of players going 6 months without being paid. And these are guys who have families, because footballers, most of them start families when they're still young.
Okay, all right. That's where we take the conversation, Patrick, that the fact is that there are a number of football clubs within the country that are not doing as well as KCCA is. They have figured out the right way of doing things in terms of the sponsorship, in terms of how to also export their people, which brings in money.
Right.
But where does it go down to the fund? Because I know even for like the likes of URA-AFC, yes, and also in terms of the clubs, when it comes to a match, why is it that we have a few Ugandans that don't show up? Is it we will willingly put on these t-shirts, by the way, but we won't show up to a stadium and actually watch it? Right. What is the issue? Is it the fact that maybe the clubs are not advertising right?
You know what,
the
Rita?
clubs are not.
That's a brilliant question, and we'd like to pose it as well to our viewers. The hashtag is Morning at NTV. I wish we had a lot of time, but we have to say goodbye at this point. We will bring you guys back again. Of course, we'll bring you back again after the match on Sunday. Rita, guys, we will have this conversation on social media, but right about now, the Arua 33 will be going to court today, and so I have Ali Muvule on split screen live in Gulu. Ali Muvule, good morning. Ali, good morning. Good morning, Ali, if you can hear me.
Yes, good morning, Mala. For the viewers, we're coming to you live from Gulu district here. Yes, I can hear you, Mala. Okay, we're coming to you live from Gulu district here at the Gulu Magistrates Court, where we're expecting the further mention of the case of Chadondo East MP Robert Chagulanyi and his other 34 accused. And the case is here treason. And so far we're here at the court, but we haven't seen many of the suspects here, apart from Arua Municipality MP Kasiano Wadri, who's been around here. And also, for the first time, actually, we've seen Shaban Atiku ever since he was granted bail. It's today that he has come back to this court after suffering some injuries from the Arua fracas. As you can see here, the security isn't that tight as it was in the earlier court sessions here. Just a few policemen manning the entrance here with some of the suspects now coming in, as you can see, trying to come in so that they can go ahead with their court session today. So today we're going to be hearing hearing from the court for further mention of this case. In the earlier session, we heard that the court was still the police was still investigating this case. However, there were some contentious issues that were raised by the defense lawyers. In this were some of the exhibits that are being held at Arua police station, some of the cars of the different suspects, as well as the phones that were actually where some of the suspects were alleging that they were being used by the SFC to get to trap some of their relatives, and they have also been arrested. Those were some of the allegations. So we're still here and we're waiting. Shortly we're going to be let's go and then we talk to Shaban Atiku, who has been away from this court session simply because he's been injured, and today is his first appearance. This is his first appearance after he was granted bail. So he's going to be briefly telling us how actually he's feeling, and then we shall be proceeding later on. Yes, Shaban.
Yes.
Morning.
Morning to you.
Yes, ever since you're granted bail, this is the first time you're coming back here.
It's true.
How's the situation so far?
The situation is like as it is. Even if the situation was good, you cannot see me in crutches, and you cannot see these belts on me. If you saw me in these things, it means that I'm still bad love. I was supposed not to come to court, so